Aha, first one here, I think. I am the first one here. I can say anything I like and never get in trouble. I don't really know what to say. Been given free reign. I know it's not free reign. I know this is not a stream, it's like a recording. Hello! I was the first one here and I was very excited to say things and never get in trouble. Oh, what's going on with the light now? I'm looking very, very pale. It doesn't matter. Not important. I got a haircut today. It was really exciting. The end. Shit. I know I was going to say something other than the recap, but I can't remember what it was. So... That's right. I was going to... Where the fuck are they? Oh, I was going to put on my arm warmers because it's fucking freezing in here. I've got the heat, like, up, but I'm cold. Sorry. Seasonal allergies. Yeah. Definitely is seasonal allergies. And Niobe's been in here a lot, so I think she's shedding. That's good, then. Good girl. Good girl. Fuck off. She's a lovely girl. So I was at the pharmacy with Evelyn and Maddie. And Maddie was admiring the holographic eye topper in prismatic prisms or something. So I told her I would put some on for the stream, but you can't see it very well. So it looks really good. I like it. I'm even using tinted lip gloss instead of Vaseline from a tin. That's how much I value you guys today. Right, recap. Last time we only read one chapter because I couldn't stop sniffling and being a bitch. It was called Dr. John, and it was about how Madame Beck is a terrible mother. And one of her daughters steals. So Madame Beck just like follows her until she finds her hiding place and gets the stolen thing and gives it back to the person. And the girl pretends not to notice. Very healthy. And Lucy records this like she's disappointed in Madame Beck for not teaching her child morals and whatever. But I don't know. I think she just doesn't like that kid. So one of the other girls of Madame Beck's children, Fifine, falls down the stairs and breaks her arm. They have to call in a doctor, and Dr. Pilule, which I believe just means Dr. Pill, he is away. So there is an interesting Englishman called Dr. John who comes and stays, and he's just like the on-call doctor for the school now. He is also the mysterious man who helped Lucy with her like lost luggage right at the beginning. And he's also super hot. Like, she said his forehead was like Grecian or something that used to be a compliment in the olden days when, you know, people were so into it. And Lucy gets caught just, like, staring at him in the garden. He's like, "What?" And her little internal monologue is like, I mean, I could have told him that I knew him from somewhere, but that was none of his business. Doesn't matter." So she just didn't say anything and went inside. We all have so much to learn from her. 5 minutes in, not bad. Oh, nope, it's bad lighting. You're not in a horror maze. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So we're coming into chapter 11 now. It's only 6 minutes in. Should we start now? I was going to do Chuck Tingle tonight. Evelyn's taken her Kindle and loaded up with a bunch more Chuck Tingle books, which all look amazing. I love them and I want to read them all. But I was just too tired. Like, I didn't want to put on the dress and the wig, and I didn't want to laugh so much about the saber-toothed dentist or the Duchess Triceratops of Helena, who I'll never forget. So we have more Villette. So we have content. Probably the important part. Now, the first time I read this book, I was not reading it aloud to an audience. And I just didn't get how much French was in it. So I'm sorry about that, but I am doing my best. Fuck it. Let's go. Villette, Chapter 11. The Portress's Cabinet. Also, are people talking in the chat? Because I can't see it. That's the main reason to do these live. Oh, but there are only 2 people here, so it would be weird if there were lots of chats. Fuck it, okay. If you are posting in the chat, all I can see is John saying hello. And that's why I'm not replying to you, I guess. And if you're not posting... Oh, okay, cool. Is it just you and Danny now? There's a third person. Oh, the mystery begins. Oh, the mystery ends. Danny, I miss you. Who was the third person? That's a mystery. Yep, I just saw Danny message. Yep. Was that a long time ago? Or was it like just now? Oh, I love that. I love that you wear that. I'll spray more perfume on it if you bring it next time you come up. Nope, no cats want to come in. Well, I know it's not at the usual time, but I wore this friggin' eye topper thing for Maddie, and she's not even here. Although she may be in the future watching it as a video or something. Oh. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else. 20-second delay. Wow. That's quite a long time. 20 seconds in real time. All right, guys, do you think we should just start and just wait for like, instead of waiting for our other compatriots of the great town of Villette, by which I mean literature. No, yeah, me neither. Yeah, that is what it always is. I feel like the first 10 minutes, I should have like a little skit with some puppets or something, or like a little cartoon that can play, like the cartoons before the newsreels. Um, Whatever, we'll figure it out. Right now, oh no, my microphone is actually really good. I was going to say the most advanced equipment I have for these streams is a study lamp shining into an umbrella with a white cloth on it that's been tied to a step stool to make a diffuser by John. A little old lady skit with Josh. Yeah, that would be good. That would be quite good, actually. Yep, I agree. 10 minutes, sucks to be them. Let's go. The Portresses Cabinet, Chapter 11. It was summer and very hot. Georgette, the youngest of Madame Beck's children, took a fever. Désirée, suddenly cured of her ailments, was, together with Fifine, packed off to Bonne Maman in the country, by way of precaution against infection. I don't know if Bonne Maman is a place, or if it's an outdated name for their godmother, or what. Don't know that one. Medical aid was now really needed, and Madame, choosing to ignore the return of Dr. Pilule, who had been at home a week, conjured his English rival to continue his visits. One or two of the pensionnaires, people staying at the place, pensionnat, complained of headache, and in other respects seemed slightly to participate Georgette's ailment. Now, at last, I thought, Dr. Pilule must be recalled. The prudent directress will never venture to permit the attendance of so young a man on the pupils. Pupils are all vicious French teenage girls. Oh, I don't need to recap with you guys because you were here the other day and you know that Madame Beck just kept him on because he was hot. Hilarious. The directress was very prudent, but she could also be intrepidly venturous. She actually introduced Dr. John to the school division of the premises and established him in attendance on the proud and handsome Blanche de Melcy and the vain flirting Angelique, her friend. Ooh. Dr. John, I thought, testified a certain gratification at this mark of confidence, and if discretion of bearing could have justified the step, it would by him have been amply justified. Here, however, in this land of convents and confessionals, such a presence as his was not to be suffered with impunity in a pensionnat de demoiselles. Boarding house sends the wrong message, but a staying house for unmarried women. The school gossiped, the kitchen whispered, the town caught the rumour, parents wrote letters and paid visits of remonstrance. Madame, had she been weak, would now have been lost. A dozen rival educational houses were ready to improve this false step, if false step it were, to her ruin. But Madame was not weak, and little Jesuit though she might be, yet I clapped the hands of my heart and with its voice cried "Brava!" as I watched her able bearing, her skilled management, her temper and her firmness on this occasion. Lucy hates everyone, but she really hates Catholics. So why she moved to France, I'm not quite sure. She met the alarmed parents with a good-humoured, easy grace, for nobody matched her in, I know not whether to say, the possession or the assumption of a certain candeur et franchise de bonne femme. The frankness of a good woman, which on various occasions gains the point aimed at with instant and complete success, where severe gravity and serious reasoning would probably have failed. Ce pauvre Dr. Jean, she would say, chuckling and rubbing joyously her fat little white hands. Ce cher jeune homme, le meilleur créature du monde. Poor Dr. John, that dear young man, the best creature in the world. And go on to explain how she happened to be employing him for her own children, who were so fond of him they would scream themselves into fits at the thought of another doctor. How, where she had confidence for her own, she thought it natural to repose trust for others. And, au reste, it was only the most temporary expedient in the world. Blanche and Angelique had the migraine. Dr. John had written a prescription. Voila tout. And that's all. The parents' mouths were closed. Blanche and Angelique saved her all remaining trouble by chanting loud duets in their physician's praise. The other pupils echoed them, unanimously declaring that when they were ill, they would have Dr. John and nobody else. And Madame laughed, and the parents laughed too. The Labascourienne must have a large organ of philoprogenitiveness. Rude! At least the indulgence of offspring is carried by them to excessive lengths, the law of most households being children's will. Madame now got credit for having acted on this occasion in a spirit of motherly partiality. She came off with flying colours. People liked her as a directress better than ever. Philoprogenitiveness? People who live in La Basse-Cour have an extra, portion of the brain that just tells them to do whatever their kids say. Is this related to Catholicism? Lucy doesn't know, but she's got her suspicions. To this day, I never fully understood why she thus risked her interest for the sake of Dr. John. Don't you, Lucy? What people said, of course I know well. The whole house, pupils, teachers, servants included, affirmed that she was going to marry him. So they had settled it. Difference of age seemed to make no obstacle in their eyes. It was to be so. It must be admitted that appearances did not wholly discountenance this idea. Madame seemed so bent on retaining his services, so oblivious of her former protege, Pilule. Oh, Lucy's throwing shade at everybody. Even the Pope, he's not there, but, that guy. She made, too, such a point of personally receiving his visits, and was so unfailingly cheerful, blithe, and benignant in her manner to him. Moreover, she paid, about this time, marked attention to dress. The morning déshabille, the nightcap and shawl, were discarded. Dr. John's early visits always found her with auburn braids all nicely arranged, silk dress trimly fitted on, neat laced brodequins in lieu of slippers. House shoes. In short, the whole toilette, complete as a model and fresh as a flower. She is. She's the lawn sprinkler of throwing shade. Lucy Snow is an avatar of the goddess of shade. I scarcely think, however, that her intention in this went further than just to show a very handsome man that she was not quite a plain woman. And plain she was not. Without... if you like shade. It's nightfall, bitch. Without beauty of feature or elegance of form, she pleased. Without youth and its gay graces, she cheered. One never tired of seeing her. She was never monotonous, or insipid, or colourless, or flat. Her unfaded hair, her eye with its temperate blue light, her cheek with its wholesome fruit-like bloom, these things pleased in moderation, but with constancy. She wasn't boring, and she wasn't super gross. Oh, Lucy, you're so sweet. Had she indeed floating visions of adopting Dr. John as a husband, taking him to her well-furnished home, endowing him with her savings, which was said to amount to a moderate competency, and making him comfortable for the rest of his life. Did Dr. John suspect her of such visions? I have met him coming out of her presence with a mischievous half-smile about his lips, and in his eyes a look as of masculine vanity, elate and tickled. Oh, she's tickling his vanity in private. Absolutely, the backhanded compliment, oh, how does she do it? Just nothing interesting about her, but she was okay to look at. With all his good looks and good nature, he was not perfect. He must have been very imperfect if he roguishly encouraged aims he never intended to be successful. But did he not intend them to be successful? People said he had no money, that he was wholly dependent upon his profession. Madame, though perhaps some 14 years his senior, was yet the sort of woman never to grow old, never to wither, never to break down. They certainly were on good terms. He perhaps was not in love. But how many people ever do love, or at least marry for love in this world? We wait at the end. It's all very foreboding. Sometimes when I'm ready to go to bed, I just keep sighing like a big dog. I'm not even sure why I'm doing it. I don't notice. For what he wanted, I do not know, nor for what he watched. But the peculiarity of his manner, his expectant, vigilant, absorbed, eager look never wore off. It rather intensified. He had never been quite within the compass of my penetration, and I think he ranged farther and farther beyond it. One morning, little Georgette had been more feverish and consequently more peevish. She was crying and would not be pacified. I thought a particular draft ordered disagreed with her, and I doubted whether it ought to be continued. I waited impatiently for the doctor's coming in order to consult him. The lawn bell rang. He was admitted. I felt sure of this, for I heard his voice addressing the portress. It was his custom to mount straight to the nursery, taking about 3 degrees of the staircase at once, and coming upon us like a cheerful surprise. 5 minutes elapsed, 10, and I saw and heard nothing of him. What could he be doing? Possibly waiting in the corridor below. Little Georgette still piped her plaintive wail, appealing to me by her familiar term, Minnie, Minnie, me very poorly, until my heart ached. That was me trying to do me very poorly in a baby's French accent. I descended to ascertain why he did not come. The corridor was empty. Whither was he vanished? Was he with Madame in the salle à manger? The dining room? Impossible. 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 I had left her but a short time since, dressing in her own chamber. I listened. 3 pupils were just then hard at work practicing in 3 proximate rooms, the dining room and the greater and lesser drawing rooms, between which and the corridor there was but the portress's cabinet, communicating with the salons, and intended originally for a boudoir. Cabinet used to be a small room. You guys know these things, you know. Farther off, at a 4th instrument in the oratory, a whole class of a dozen or more were taking a singing lesson, and just then joining in a barcarolle. I think they called it that. Whereof I yet remember these words, fraîche brise and Venise. I think it's fresh breeze and Venice. Not breeze. Well, maybe. I don't know. Under these circumstances, what could I hear? A great deal, certainly, had it only been to the purpose. Yes, I heard a giddy treble laugh in the above-mentioned little cabinet, close by the door of which I stood. That door half closed. A man's voice, in soft, deep, pleading tone, uttered some words whereof I only caught the adjuration, "For God's sake!" Then, after a second's pause, forth issued Dr. John, his eye full shining, but not with either joy or triumph, his fair English cheek high-coloured, a baffled, tortured, anxious, and yet a tender meaning on his brow. Bitches used to love brows in the olden days. Not the way we love them now. They would love the whole forehead of another person. It's true. The open door served me as a screen, but had I been full in his way, I believe he would have passed without seeing me. Some mortification, some strong vexation had hold of his soul. Or rather, to write my impressions now as I received them at the time, I should say some sorrow, some sense of injustice. I did not so much think his pride was hurt, as that his affections had been wounded. Cruelly wounded, it seemed to me. Oh yeah, super into phrenology. You gotta make sure he's got a good brow, preferably alabaster. You can like a big brow, but that's not the be all and end all. Hmm. I did not so much think his pride was hurt as that his affections had been wounded, cruelly wounded, it seemed to me. But who was the torturer? What being in that house had him so much in her power? Madame, I believed to be in her chamber. The room whence he had stepped was dedicated to the portress's sole use, and she, Rosine Maton, an unprincipled though pretty little French grisette, airy, fickle, dressy, vain, and mercenary. It was not, surely, to her hand he owed the ordeal through which he seemed to have passed. Oh yeah, I thought it was just classism. You know, like everyone I know is white, but one guy's way whiter than the rest from being indoors. But yeah, you are right. I'm gonna have to look up grisette in here because I know the meaning, but it's really hard for me to grisette. A working girl, sometimes used to suggest a flirtatious one. Yeah, just any young woman who was working, like at a hat shop or wherever, but maybe would step out back. Again, classism. But while I pondered, her voice, clear though somewhat sharp, broke out into a lightsome French song, trilling through the door still ajar. I glanced in, doubting my senses. There at the table she sat in a smart dress of jaconas rose, trimming a tiny blonde cap. Not a living thing save herself was in the room, except indeed some goldfish in a glass globe, some flowers in pots, and a broad July sunbeam. Here was a problem, but I must go upstairs to ask about the medicine. Dr. John sat in a chair at Georgette's bedside. Madame stood before him. The little patient had been examined and soothed, and now lay composed in her crib. Madame Beck, as I entered, was discussing the physician's own health, remarking on some real or fancied change in his looks, charging him with overwork, and recommending rest and change of air. He listened good-naturedly, but with laughing indifference, telling her that she was trop bonne and that he felt perfectly well. Too good, too good, oh, too good. Madame appealed to me, Dr. John following her movement with a slow glance, which seemed to express languid surprise at a reference being made to a quarter so insignificant. She hates them for overlooking her, and yet She kind of likes it because then she can see and hear more stuff. But she only wants to see and hear more stuff to get ammunition or to learn the secrets of people that she hates for ignoring her. Very complex main character. I bet someone probably wrote an essay on this. Literature. What do you think, Miss Lucy? Asked Madame. Is he not paler and thinner? She is very salty. She lives in a saline world. I mean, we all do, but, her challenges are pretty different. It was very seldom that I uttered more than monosyllables in Dr. John's presence. He was the kind of person with whom I was likely ever to remain the neutral, passive thing he thought me. Now, however, I took license to answer in a phrase, and a phrase I purposely made quite significant. He looks ill at this moment, but perhaps it is owing to some temporary cause. Dr. John may have been vexed or harassed. He mustn't be vexed! I cannot tell how he took this speech, as I never sought his face for information. Georgette here began to ask me in her broken English if she might have a glass of eau sucrée, sugar water. I answered her in English. For the first time, I fancy, he noticed that I spoke his language. Hitherto he had always taken me for a foreigner, addressing me as mademoiselle and giving in French the requisite directions about the children's treatment. He seemed on the point of making a remark, but thinking better of it, held his tongue. Another incredible sentence in literature. He was on the point of making a remark, but held his tongue. It's the most beautiful romance story I've ever read. Madame recommended advising him. He shook his head, laughing, rose, and bid her good morning with courtesy, but still with the regardless air of one whom too much unsolicited attention was surfeiting and spoiling. When he was gone, Madame dropped to the chair he had just left. She rested her chin in her hand. All that was animated and amiable vanished from her face. She looked stony and stern, almost mortified and morose. She sighed, a single but a deep sigh. A loud bell rang for morning school. She got up. As she passed a dressing table with a glass upon it, she looked at her reflected image. By a glass, they mean a mirror. You guys know that. One single white hair streaked her nut-brown tresses. She plucked it out with a shudder. In the full summer daylight, her face, though it still had the colour, could plainly be seen to have lost the texture of youth. And then, where were youth's contours? Oh, Madame, wise as you were, even you knew weakness. Never had I pitied Madame more, but my heart softened towards her when she turned darkly from the glass. A calamity had come upon her. That hag disappointment was greeting her with a grisly all hail, and her soul rejected the intimacy. But Rosine, my bewilderment there surpasses description. I embraced 5 opportunities of passing her cabinet that day, with a view to contemplating her charms and finding out the secret of their influence. She was pretty, young, and wore a well-made dress. All very good points, and I suppose amply sufficient to account in any philosophic mind for any amount of agony and distraction in a man like Dr. John. Still, I could not help forming half a wish that the said doctor were my brother, or at least that he had a sister or a mother who would kindly sermonize him. I say half a wish. I broke it, flung it away from me before it became a whole one, discovering in good time its exquisite folly. Somebody, I argued, might as well sermonize Madame about her young physician, and what good would that do? I believe Madame sermonized herself. She did not behave weakly, or make herself in any shape ridiculous. It is true she had neither strong feelings to overcome, nor tender feelings by which to be miserably pained. It is true likewise that she had an important avocation, a real business to fill her time, divert her thoughts, and divide her interest. It is especially true that she possessed a genuine good sense, which is not given to all women or to all men. And by dint of these combined advantages, she behaved wisely. She behaved well. Brava once more, Madame Beck. I saw you matched against an Apollyon of a predilection. Of a predilection. You fought a good fight and you overcame. Oh, I struggled with the word predilection. I'm not getting old. I'm actually getting younger, like a Dracula in a box, probably. We do have another chapter. But yeah, I don't think people are going to catch up if it's an entire hour. They might if they know that they can skip 10 minutes in and start. Hello, sweetheart. Hello, sweetheart. Are you going to come up and see Danny and John? I almost said Dan and Johnny. What? Flora. Come on. What have I got? Shit, what have I got? I'm not sure there's anything nearby. No, she's paying no attention to me. Yeah, so I kind of did want to keep reading, but I think it's better if we stop here and start again tomorrow. I am tired, Danny. You're quite right. I'm tired. I am. Don't laugh at me being tired. That's ageist. It's ageist, you son of a bitch. Just because I'm too old. Just because I'm too old to ever be the wife of a red-pilled man doesn't mean I have nothing to give society. Oh, I think it does, actually. Huh. C'est la vie, as they say in Villette. Okay, guys. And people watching in the future who are catching up. Sorry, 90% of this video is bullshit, but the chapter was pretty good, I think. So I will... Well, you should look after each other, wash your hands, etc. And I will see you all tomorrow. Yeah, I've been too old for them for quite a long time. Yeah. Alright, see you guys.